What's going on, Philadelphia? Hello, fellow bird brains. I thought about quitting coffee, honestly. Like, throughout the entire playoff run, it was all tea. This is the first time back with coffee in, several weeks. So we're going to see how this goes. And if I'm all over the place, that's because of this. Okay? It is crazy how much the offseason goes so fast when you win a Super Bowl. And that's something I definitely forgot about from the 17-18 win. And I'm even going to be a little bit of a hypocrite over the last couple of weeks because, I feel like we have sucked almost everything out of the Super Bowl, even though I'm going to be re-watching highlights throughout July because we'll be super, super bored by then. But I'm actually kind of now, because the Combine is literally in 2 days, as I'm recording this on a Tuesday morning. The offseason never quits. This season never really quits. We've got A.J. Brown on $1 million worth of game, which I thought was really interesting this week. And more importantly, I just keep coming back to this. What do you want the Eagles to be in 2025? Super Bowl champions again? I think that's an obvious thing. How do they get there? What are they going to look like? I was really dialed into the $1 million worth of game interview with A.J. Brown. I'm going to leave that in the description down below. And when we're done talking about this, I highly recommend watching pretty much all of that. I thought it was a really good perspective on how the wide receiver room kind of views Jalen Hurts. And in funny ways, in good ways. In I would say, I don't even say bad ways, in why I understand why they would get frustrated. And I think you and I were pretty much dead on what everybody was feeling at the beginning of this season as they start to pivot towards Saquon Barkley. How do I keep myself focused on catching footballs one-on-one when I'm always open? When I know if Jalen just looks my way and throws where he's supposed to throw, it's going to be a first down touchdown. That's A.J. Brown's mentality as he's getting doubled and, has a safety on top of him, basically triple coverage almost every single play. So it's supposed to leave Devontae and everybody else open, and that's pretty much what we saw in the Super Bowl, right? And that is my first thought on where everyone is going to just attack the Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to do exactly what the Kansas City Chiefs did, except it's going to be for 17 straight games. I don't think any team in this league is going to allow Saquon Barkley to try and set the tone of the Eagles offense, because if you do that in the first couple of quarters, the game is already over. I think that's what everyone realized. No one took Saquon Barkley seriously enough, even though it was on film. They did it to him 4 or 5 times. The Rams, when they matched up with them again, didn't even respect that. The Commanders, the same way for the 3rd time, didn't even bother with it. Because they know the type of threat that A.J. Brown is. And I think because of the stats, the fact that Jalen wasn't looking his way or just wasn't open, which is a humongous problem. I don't think that's just a Jalen problem. That's been the schematical passing offense problem that we've all been bitching about, whose fault it is for the past 5 years. But this, where A.J. Brown talks about, I want this offense to evolve, and you've pretty much heard that right after the Super Bowl. He said that. I think some players have even echoed that. I want this team to be, I won't even want to say an efficient passing team. I just have to have a big A.J. Brown play every single game. Every single game. That means he's crossing 5 yards deep and running up the field for 80 yards. I'll take that. That means we're thrown over the top, even though he looks covered. Great. If we need to get more one-on-one coverages in the slot with him, great. And that is one thing that you and I are always going to just sit here and go, well, I don't have any great faith that Kevin Patullo and whatever's in there right now, and Jalen Hurts probably having quite a bit of say on how this offense operates. I'm not really sure if I see this being a dynamic passing game at any point in time because of the mixture of people that are in here. However, I do get a little optimistic because if we see it, they see it. If A.J. Brown for the 2nd or 3rd year in a row is going, what the fuck do I have to do around here to get the football? And I honestly thought some eye-opening responses on how AJ and Hurts' relationship was overall in the last couple of years, where Brandon Graham in that WIP interview was right after the Panthers game, and it was where Jalen had I think one of the worst performances of the year against a really sad sack of shit team. So when Brandon Graham says, yeah, they used to be friends, as he's reacting to a clip where AJ Brown is saying we need to fix the passing game, that seems more true than ever now. More true than ever. I think it's pretty cool, honestly, to see that clearly there was a humongous fight of some sort over how the offense was running, which the guys sounded like they either chose friendship or business, and there's still a mixture of both in there. The relationship clearly isn't the same on the friendship side, but on the business side, it seems really intact to me. And I don't know who's responsible for breaking the ice, and if it's those two guys getting together and saying, hey, we don't want to fuck this up, or Nick or Howie, or part of the situation situation where you saw those guys get paid this offseason. However, that formulated back into success, I think, is one of the best things, and I'm just going to place that towards Nick Sirianni a lot, because that's a ton to deal with. That is a ton to deal with. And you and I assumed that it would kind of looks like a T.O. situation at some point, but I don't think A.J. Brown is anywhere close, and I thought that, months ago too. How I believe for where he's at in life, the age that he's at, what's in his bank account, how much coverage is really over his life every single day on social and everywhere else. Pretty damn mature for handling all of that. I would have cracked at least 50 times in front of a camera and yelled and screamed, because imagine all the idiotic things that were even suggested, even by me. I don't know. I probably said some dumb shit. At some point you're going to break if you hear the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. So I believe it's a huge eye-opening thing on just because it's fighting and just because half of that shit probably is true. You clearly see where this team prioritizes itself. Winning. You may think it's corny, and clearly A.J. Brown in the wide receiver room kind of think it's corny too, and I'm sure there's more people in there. The veterans listening to this young Jalen Hurts sound like a poet, and he's dead serious all the time. You know those articles this year on we're questioning Jalen Hurts' leadership a little bit, as if it seems like he's above everybody? I get that. I don't think Jalen Hurts is intentionally trying to do it, but man, lighten up, bro, is I think what a lot of the veterans and some of these other guys in that room have. But understandably, to feel that way, everyone's going to think you're weird if you have crazy high expectations for yourself or ambitions that are beyond what people think a group of people can do or you can do individually. Everyone sounds crazy. Go back to any athlete, entertainer, musician, and it depends on how obsessive you are, right? You can be Daniel Day-Lewis. You could be Kanye West. There's a whole spectrum of taking yourself way too seriously. And does Jalen have some of that in him? Of course he does. I also love that. And so do you. So personalities are always going to clash there. There's no wide receiver that takes anything seriously. So when Jalen is that serious about winning a football game, he's more like a coach than he is a player sometimes. I could see that if you're not winning football games, that'll fucking piss you off in 2 seconds. Oh yeah, you're telling everybody to do their jobs? Why don't you throw to the deep part to Quez Watkins and actually catch a fucking football in a non-threatening situation in the game? Or I totally get all that. Putting your pressure on the third wide receiver who hasn't touched a football all day, and now you want him to go make a big play? Ice cold? Totally get it. I would be pissed off too, And at the end of the day, I think it's fantastic to know all that stuff and realize how healthy that locker room is now, because they wouldn't have won a Super Bowl otherwise. It's just awesome to understand that there are so many different checks and balances. And in 2023, clearly those things were not in place. It was more spilling out the drama. I'm going to do shit my way. I don't want to do that. Doesn't even need to be factually checked because we all felt it and saw it in action. I don't know exactly what I want the Eagles to be. I just know that if I was them, I would be perfecting everything about Jalen Hurts throwing a football comfortably to everybody on the field. And that's one thing I still don't get. Is just maybe it is Jalen's next step here is to go under center more for me. That's the only disappointing thing about Kellen Moore leaving is I think that's your best bet of evolving this offense is getting him under center and just never quitting the motion principles that kind of Kellen Moore instilled, because that's what made a lot of this successful this year. Tons of it. So yes, that's one of the things I want the Eagles to be in 2025. However, they got to figure it out. A.J. Brown has to be a superstar. You've got to get him involved early in the game. We know that he's double, triple covered almost against every single secondary. Fucking fix that. Confuse them. Schematically, that's everyone's job to do. 100%. And Jalen needs to 1,000% be way more comfortable taking shit under center. That's what I would have him do pretty much all offseason. You got your baby steps in this year. That's the only really disappointing part about Kellen Moore leaving for me is I think it forced Jalen Hurts to evolve. And the Kevin Petula thing, even though I think I have some pretty decent optimism overall on it, I hope that Kevin can push Jalen the same way that he kind of pushes Nick. I hope that's what his job is to do, because I don't want, and I don't think that Jalen is going to rest on this season because, probably wants his stats to look a little better as well. You won a Super Bowl by running the football and having an amazing defense. To give you these opportunities to keep coming back into the red zone and do all this, the offense now needs to set the tone. I'm not saying that this isn't a defensive team to start and Vic Fangio isn't craving perfection on the other side as he's yelling at Nolan Smith and the rest of the defensive line. Did you read that story, by the way? 2 hours of pre-prep parade that Vic Fangio made the entire defense watch the Super Bowl. 23 points is unacceptable. What a baller. So that's not going to stop, but I need the offense to score points in the first quarter and throughout the game. And the second most thing that I would like the Philadelphia Eagles to start becoming in 2025, not that they had any choice anyway, is they're going to be the villain now. Our friends, the Green Bay Packers, they want us to be villains too. This town is ready to be the villain again. Whether or not the tush push stays or goes, the Green Bay Packers certainly never want to see it again with their tiny little defensive line. And that was reported by Diana Rossini yesterday, as there was a team that filed to Troy Vincent and said, we want this thing out of here next year in 2025. Of course, just like everything else, I don't believe that it is going to pass. I think some team is always going to have to try and ban this. I wouldn't be surprised that when they take a vote on this, it is probably closer than any other vote that they've had in banning this thing. I think it's probably going to be closer to 50-50, strictly because playoff teams are sick of hearing it. I'm sure the Kansas City Chiefs would vote yes. The Commanders would vote yes. Maybe the Detroit Lions don't do it because of Dan Campbell. We don't want to ban something that we can't stop. And I've heard every frickin' argument for the last 2 years. I'm honestly tired of debating it. Either you can find a way to stop it, replicate it yourself, or shut up and play football. Personally, I kind of think that if it does get banned, it only helps Jalen Hurts anyway. Guess when we're talking about that type of involvement, if it's not 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 8 when you are starting. Bye, Daddy. Bye, sweet pea. Can I have a kiss? I love you so much. Bye, Mama. Some things are more important than football, am I right? By the way, she says go Birds all the time, so she's officially in. But if the tush push does get banned, Jalen Hurts gets better. Saquon Barkley gets better. Stoutland has to find a way to get better because you created the ultimate play, and it will live in infamy forever. The Philadelphia Eagles created a play that no one could replicate, stop, and possibly we had to ban it because it was so good. Pretty awesome. But I do want to say this about it, and shout out to Jack P. Connell on the old Twitter. I'll leave this down in the description too so you can read it. He says, this is what the push-tush discourse sounds like to me. The NCAA banned the Duncan College from 1967 to 1976 primarily to limit the dominance of UCLA star Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was an exceptionally skilled dunker, considered the most unstoppable around the basket at the time. So yes, I view the tush push just like college basketball viewed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You're just too fucking good. Our players can't keep up. To which I say, not our fucking problem. Not our fucking problem. And though I agree, if you want to amend it so you can't push Jalen Hurts from behind, he's still going to win. He's still going to piss you off. He squats 600 pounds because all they're going to do now when they do the tush push is make sure that Saquon Barkley is out wide somewhere just to take out a body from trying to stop Jalen Hurts on a QB sneak or whatever they're going to end up calling it now. The more and more, the closer we get to the combine and to free agency, it just looks like it's going to be the fuck you tour part deux. And I'm excited for that as well. I'm going to be back here on Thursday. I want you to be back here on Thursday. We still have some important offseason news to discuss, and I'll just give you a little hint. There is probably going to be a name change with the podcast. I haven't completely decided on it, but I think I'm like 99% sure I'm there. I'll tell you about what I'm planning to do, but you can more or less count on me being here Tuesday, Thursday, recording every morning, sending it out, mid-morning, mid-afternoon, and I want to keep this train rolling. I love talking to you. I'm so happy that you love listening to me, and I really appreciate all your support. Plus, the Combine is starting, and I want to talk about some fat men that I enjoy in the trenches that I think we should go after and discuss. So I'll be back to do that, and I'll talk to you very soon right here on Bell and the Birdman. I'll see you on Thursday.